Hey everyone, welcome back to the Art of Save Scumming, and today we're talking about Khorne. This is probably going to be the last video I make on Khorne in a little while. I basically wanted to play a full campaign, or at least get decently far in a campaign, so that I could give you an idea of how the economic changes have impacted Khorne. And we all know that Khorne has never really made very much money from their settlements. Well, I would say with the new update that they make even less from their settlements. They have been rebalanced to the max to focus almost exclusively on death and destruction, which is the way that Khorne should play. There are some of the balancings that I am going to talk about that I don't agree with that they did. But by and large, I would say that it's very thematic with what they've done here. So if we look here, this is the province that you start with. And if we look in, say, for instance, the main building chain, you'll notice that there is no money in there at all. There is no money to be made from the main settlement building, which is one of the few factions that does that, which is basically no money from holding the territory at all. How you accrue some money from a settlement is as follows. The first is your military buildings. It does not matter what tier of military building it is. It provides income. Your basic military buildings provide 80, and your advanced military buildings provide 120. It does not matter if it's tier 1 or if it's tier 4 or 5 or whatever it is. They all provide the same. And you can also build the specific type, whether it's demonic or mortal, in the building chain. So this is a mortal aligned settlement, so I can only build the mortal buildings in here. So it ultimately would be best to put the 120 value one in there if that's what you're going for. If you've got the opportunity, I don't know that I would blow up previously established buildings just for the purposes of squeezing a little bit more blood from the stone. There are better ways to make money as Khorne than your settlements. The other thing that provides a fair amount of money for you are the resources. The resources vary depending on their value. It is it really depends on the individual resource, but the most I think that is provided is 120, and there is some kind of also passive benefit. So, for instance, the tusks, they provide skulls in addition to the income. But some of the other ones that are like really good, for instance, would be like the salt mine over here. It produces 120 income, but it also increases faction-wide your post-battle loot and your income from raiding, which don't really do that much, or at least I don't, and then your income from sacking and looting settlements. That's pretty darn good. There are some other ones that provide the ability to reduce the build costs in various regions. I think that there's something over here, maybe. What does gold do? Hang on. Gold is upkeep for all armies. That's actually a pretty good one. 400. That's, I think, yeah, that's probably as good as it gets. 400 is pretty darn good. That would be in your best interest to hold all the gold mines that you possibly can, because that's really, really high for Khorne. Dies, recruitment capacity. Right, you see what I'm saying? So some of these, but some of them, like this one, for instance, was the one that I was looking for. This is construction time and construction cost reduction. Same thing with the marble resources. You see what I'm saying? So there are some passive benefits to holding those resources in addition to money. But how Khorne actually makes money, let's look at our breakdown here. So first of all, your background income. So what you start with, this is very hard, legendary campaign, background income is 3,000. So if you compare what you start with, so all of my efforts in building my provinces come into 3,600. So only 621 after 43 turns, more income than what you start with in the background is what you get from building income. That basically means that settlements aren't worth crap to Khorne. What is worth a decent amount in relative comparison is the cult income, which does not take that much management, and the vassal tribute. It's very easy to get vassals as Khorne because you get very strong very rapidly. And as far as territory is concerned, if it doesn't have a gold mine or something like that in it, then it doesn't really matter whether you hold it or not because it doesn't really provide that much income. For instance, if Archaon wanted the Stormvrak Mount right here in exchange for being my vassal, well, the Stormvrak Mount right now will produce 120 income plus 80. So my public education math tells me that that is going to produce 200 income for this settlement in exchange for Archaon becoming my vassal. Well, I only have a couple vassals, right? I've got Kairos, the Chaos Dwarves, Archaon, Valkia, and their subs, right? I'm able to get considerably more income in exchange for just one of the settlements that I'm not really using anyway. So when I build my settlements, I actually build them. This is sort of like your goal once you get up to tier 5, right? But you're going to build them sort of more like this, which is max growth. It used to be that if we were to like look at this, it used to be that Khorne gained growth from having armies at max bloodletting or higher bloodletting. I think that Creative Assembly ought to go back and put some kind of benefit in for at least the blood host, because all of them, even if we go down to a blood host here, these all have upkeep reduction 10%, but these don't have any upkeep, so it doesn't really make any sense for them to have this. If they even just put it on the blood hosts, where it would be in your best interest to have maximum quantity of blood hosts at maximum bloodletting for the purposes of achieving that ballistic growth, I thought that was a pretty unique system to gain growth, and I thought that it worked pretty well. I would like to see them put some semblance of that back, but I understand why there is some kind of growth in the settlements now, because it used to be pretty rocky to get that growth going, but once you got it going, it was snowball out of control. All of your settlements would have like 700 growth. You'd be getting a new population surplus like every single turn. I digress. So you want to go maximum growth. Maximum growth until you achieve tier 5. Once you achieve tier 5, there's no reason to keep this. It just gives you casualty replenishment. Especially in some of your starting settlements, you're not going to be here ever again. So you can just delete these off and then replace them with either a military building or this building. And this is your creme de la creme here. This is what you ultimately want, as many of these buildings as you possibly can. Looking back at this, how valuable this one is, you can get the equivalent of a fully upgraded cultist enclave of salt with a couple of these buildings. So every province can produce this. This is income from post-battle loot, 4%. Income from raiding, again, we don't raid all that much, 2%. And income from sacking and looting settlements, 2%. And this is faction-wide, all characters. So every time I build one of these, my post-battle loot gets insane. And it is not all that uncommon to get 20,000 doing a really good job in the battle simply by having several provinces that have this sort of thing set up. Because you can see that basically your building income plus maybe some vassal tribute in there is paying for the upkeep on your armies, maybe. Everything else that you get that goes in the bank is simply from going around and destroying as much stuff as possible. Now, as far as my armies are concerned, And then we'll go to how I build my cults really quick as Khorne, so you can kind of see the strategy and what I'm going for. This is an army that pays upkeep, and it is simply just trying to get over to this one to get those Chaos Knights to them. Chosen. Characters and Chosen. And it's not costing me all that much. You know, upkeep is 1,600, and you accomplish that by going through and getting this sustained by slaughter. Minus 10%. That's a big one. And then you got another upkeep reduction, 8% here. And then the technology that you have to rush when it comes to Khorne is, oh, that's the wrong button, is this one right here. Upkeep minus 8%. So there's 10%, 8%, and 8%. And then I think there might even be an additional upkeep for Skull Reaper and Wrathmonger units. Arbol has a mortal predisposition that has an upkeep reduction for some of those units as well. So keep that in mind when it comes to the cost that you're seeing on screen. This is going to be different if you're talking about playing as Skull Taker. Now let's go to the cults before we wrap up today. And the way that I do my cults as Khorne in general looks something like this. We get a vassal, and then at the vassal capital we put this building in here, and this is generating us 200 per turn. Keep in mind, 200 per turn in relative comparison to everything else that we can access. Basically, the only building that beats that is the gold mine. And then on top of that, we also put this in here, and that gives us an additional 200. So this settlement here is outperforming a gold mine. And all I did to get this was pop a unit down somewhere, create the cult magus, and then get the cult magus chambers, and then put these buildings in there, raise the corruption. And you rinse, wash, repeat on all of your vassals to get this at their most expensive settlement. So Writhing Fortress would be an example. I haven't even done that for Kairos yet, because when you do that, you have to remember that that is going to impact your reliability rating. So I still want to keep my reliability rating high so that I don't got a bunch of people piling on me because I'm strength rank 1. But I'm in the process of doing that with all of Kairos' settlements. But if I were to go up to, like, for instance, Valkia, I've started to execute this on Valkia. You can see I've started to build that. But the only one that really has that set up is I have one of those in Valkia's settlement. I've got one of those up here in Tamarkan's settlement. And that's not all that lucrative, to be honest. And I've got one in Archaon's settlement. So all the rest of it... Oh, wait a minute. I have one over here in this settlement here that have started. So 10,000 foot view. It used to be said that you only needed a couple provinces to have a successful Khorne campaign. And I would say that that was sort of true before. Now it definitely is true. One province that is mortal aligned. One province that is aligned demons. Build the buildings, and then everything else, tier 3 is as high as you really need to go. Because at that point, you can upgrade all your resources to tier 3. You can get all of your buildings up to the maximum number that you need to be able to get your heroes, even though this building is not a good example. Your heroes are capacity increased at level 3 on all of your buildings. The income is maximized, and you're going to end up doing the majority of your recruiting in all of your major armies. For instance, if we go down here to Scarbrand, wherever the heck he is, he's got almost full bloodletting, he's going to be doing global recruitment of whatever he wants. And at this stage, your economy does not matter how much the units cost. You can just replace them at the end of every turn. Does it suck to lose like a really awesome unit with, full ranks and all that sort of stuff? Yes, it does. But it doesn't really matter because you can just get new ones at the end of the turn, because Scarbrand's going to fight, 3 or 4 battles per turn. Same thing with any other legendary lord for Khorne that you're going to be fighting with. They're going to be fighting so many battles. Even if I go up here to this, which is just a beta army, this one's at full bloodletting. I can recruit global chosen in one turn. The only things that are costing more are things like Soul Grinders of Khorne. You see what I'm saying? Your artillery. Some of those units are going to cost you, your Minotaurs, 2 units per, or 2 turns per unit, like your Chaos Knights. Everything else, all of your infantry, which is going to be your bread and butter as Khorne anyway, Wrathmongers, Skull Reapers, all globally recruited 1 turn. Anyway, that's all I got for you guys today. That's my look at the Khorne overview for economy. Thank you for tuning in, and we're going to switch gears to another faction here after the next patch comes out and it has gone mainstream. Hopefully we'll see another video here at the Art of Save Scumming.